working. An economist weighs in on this and offers some insight on the U.S. economy more broadly. Joining me now is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Recession. Daniel, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Yes, President Biden likened his so-called historic investment for high-speed internet to Franklin D. Roosevelt's Electrification Act, which brought electricity to all American homes and farms. Do you see this as a good investment within the framework of Bidenomics?
Well, I think it's a good investment. I think that it should not be done by the government, to be fairly honest. If we remember precisely what he is mentioning, the Electrification Act, the end game ended up being a very large level of malinvestment, very inefficient level of investment. Obviously, it was washed out throughout the years, but ultimately, if what we really want is high-speed connection, good telecommunication infrastructures, what the United States is less regulatory burdens and to allow the businesses, the companies, to actually implement it in the most efficient and cost-effective way. The risk that we face if this program is implemented by the government is what happened in Europe and particularly in some of the southern European economies, which is that it ended up being hugely extended in terms of the time frame to implement it, but most importantly, also hugely more expensive than was initially budgeted. Ultimately, this needs to be a combination of public and private investment in which the public part is mostly to facilitate, not to actually put the money on. So it's a good investment, but it's only a good investment if the initial capital deployed is not massively overspent.
Yes, and inefficiencies are a problem in that case, and thanks for helping us understand the broader context around this. Daniel, in your article, you make the case that bloated U.S. government spending is concealing a recession that's actually taking place in the private sector. Can you explain your reasoning?
Well, if we look at the gross domestic product and the calculation of gross domestic product is pretty evident. The biggest components of the factors that have avoided a recession in the United States have been much lower imports coming from the lower price of commodities that the United States imports from all over the world, and also from a much larger government spending. If we look at real consumption, and if we look at private investment, those are already showing that the level of growth of what we could call the productive economy in the United States is actually almost inexistent and in most cases recessionary. The reality of the private sector is that small and medium enterprises, that families are suffering in real terms, and that margins are compressed, that real disposable income, as I said, in real terms. The government tends to talk about nominal terms. Obviously, inflation disguises it. So if we look at the private sector, which is what matters in the United States, it is already in a recession if we look at the combination of the manufacturing indicators, the real consumption, the real disposable income, and also, and very important, how the savings ratio of citizens has been almost consumed.
Well, Daniel, you have a very unique claim with a lot of supporting evidence. Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Recession. It's great hearing from you today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.